Hello there. Good afternoon on this very wet Wednesday afternoon if you're in the UK like me. So hopefully... Ooh, wow, that shirt. Okay, camera's working. Yes, that shirt indeed. I'll stand up a bit, you can see this. Needs ironing, but yeah, I got me a nice super aguri shirt. So yeah. As you'll have seen probably yesterday, we passed 25,000 subscribers. Doesn't feel that long ago. I think it was in May. I did the 20,000 sub special. And then it was about a year ago I hit 10,000 and I did my first live stream. And then I was like, okay, next one, we're going to do the 2010s cars. And then 1 year later, and here we are. So, I'm assuming everyone can hear me as well. It's always a bit of a tricky thing with this at the beginning. So yeah, a couple of new things. Obviously, yeah, new shirt, new camera. Now I've got a proper webcam, podcast ready, and maybe I can start doing more face content in my videos. And new background as well. Not a very interesting one, but yeah, basically I moved out a couple of months ago, which I only could have done because of YouTube. So thank you once again for your support and continuing to watch my videos. Okay, so yeah, we'll get started. If I press this and then this, I'm hoping. Oop, that's the wrong one. That should switch over. Let's see if my phone changes. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, tier list now. Every 2010, every car from the 2010s. There's 109 of them. So quite a lot for us to get through this afternoon. So yeah. And again, this is people are asking. It's not based on liveries because we've done that already. This is based on performance of the cars and how good the actual car was. I couldn't think up of any interesting names for tiers or anything, so it's just S to F. But yeah, this could take a while. Yes, it could. So hopefully, if I can be done in under 3 hours, that would be nice, but we'll have to see. So yeah, 109 cars. I've arranged them chronologically instead of alphabetically, because otherwise we're going to have like 10 Mercedes in a row that are all basically the same. So yeah, let's get started. So first up, 2010, we have the Ferrari F10. So this car was obviously title contender, not so much constructors, but certainly for the driver's title with Alonso. They won 3 or 4 races, I think. It had not very good qualifying car, very good race pace, obviously not on the same level as the Red Bull. I'm seeing A's, low A, B, A. 5 races, right, yep, 5, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, my first instinct was either an A or a B. I think, yeah, the mid-season they had a bit of a slump before Germany where they were just kind of absolutely nowhere. But yeah, Singapore Grand Slam, yeah, of course, Alonso led the whole thing with Vettel right behind him. So yeah, I'm... On the basis that Alonso almost took it to the championship, I'm going to put it in A, I think. It's not an S tier car, but it's a perfectly good one, at least. Right, the second car. So now the Force India VJM03. So the Force Indias, there's not really much different because across their 10 years in F1, their results and performances didn't really change that much. So for that, I'd have thought. I mean, this year it was Satil and Liuzzi, and it was just bog standard midfield car. I'm seeing D, C, D, C, D. Yeah, Liuzzi wasn't brilliant. I don't remember him being particularly good. Adrian got a few decent results. But yeah, A, interesting. I think, yeah, maybe I think a C. I've just noticed actually the chat. You can't really look it on my phone. I need to check. Oh, I don't know if I can change that midstream, the color of the chat text, because I realize you can't actually see any of it. I'll try that in a second anyway. Anyway, yeah, I'll put this in C. Maybe I'll just switch this back to full screen, and then I'll try and back to me, and then I'll try and see if it'll allow me to change the text on the chat. But I don't know if it will. So 2 seconds. I would have done that because my last stream I was just full screen the whole time with a white background. Let's see video. Let me think. Oh no, don't want that. That changing night today. And yes, you can all ogle at the Super Agrui shirt while I do it. I bought this. It was brand new in the sense that it was in the original packaging, and so it's old, but it's never been worn before. So it's 15 years old, I guess, at least, or something, and I'm the first owner of it. How on earth do I do this? Sorry, everyone. Oh, wait, I think I've worked it out. Chat box, yeah. Okay, I thought I had it, but that's... Oh, wait, I've got it, I think. I don't know if that's going to change or not, but that will, yeah. Okay, I'll switch this back to full screen. Even if it hasn't worked, I'll just carry on, because obviously we're delaying things a bit with this. Okay. Do you have an algorithm for the alternate point systems, or do you do everything manually? I have to do it manually, unfortunately. There's no, yeah. The thing is, with older races, there are a lot of problems with results because they have different ways of calculating who's classified and who isn't. I can't see tests. I've just noticed that. Oh, I've just made it worse. Yeah. Okay. What I'm going to do instead, I'll just keep it shared screen and maybe someone can see what I'm doing. I'll just try and see what I've done wrong. Chat box. You're going to get an infinite screen as this zooms in. It's showing it on there, but now it's gone. So I don't know what's happened. Yeah, you can see it. Oh, maybe it has come back, actually. It looks like it's back. Okay, anyway, yeah. We'll carry on. Now it's all green. Okay, that's not good. Better. Good. Okay, yeah, we can carry on. Okay, next car. The Hispania F110. Obviously a channel favourite here, but pretty awful car. So I could talk about this car for days. So this was built by Dallara, and it was originally intended just to be a show car for Hispania, and they were meant to use it up until, I think, Monaco, and then Dallara were going to bring this major upgrade package, which Karun Chandok wagered could have put them on par with, say, Toro Rosso. But then that package never came because HRT were defaulting on their payments. So they ran this show car for the entire season, completely unmodified, except for moving the wing mirrors, I think, off the barge boards onto the tub, and that was the only change they made all year. And so it meant that they they were using the same setup in Monaco and Monza, and somehow just about made it work. But apparently, the thing is, both Christian Klein and Chandok have said the car was actually quite drivable. It just didn't have any downforce. But regardless, it's an F because it's one of the most basic Formula One cars ever. Even though, considering all things considered, they could stay just on par with Virgin, so it's really not. It could be worse. But yeah, everyone's saying F, and I agree. Okay, after that is the Lotus T127. So this is another one from the new teams. Considerably better car, although still not good enough to get anywhere near the rest of the grid. And this one's, straddling E and F. It wasn't brilliant for reliability, but their budget was bigger than HRT, and it was reasonable. I suppose the big shining moment in 2010 was when they when Kovalainen got rear-ended by Webber, who'd forgotten how early they have to brake compared to the Red Bull. And as someone's mentioning as well, the fire. So I'm seeing mostly a D. Interesting. E, a couple of Fs. Yeah, I think an E, to be honest. It could be worse. It's what I'd say for that one. Right, now for a car completely different, the McLaren M25. So this one, again, like the Ferrari, another title contending car, looked absolutely brilliant. The main innovation on this one was the F duct. So you saw that little like vent on the bodywork, and I think the idea was that there was a tube going from that vent to a hole in the rear wing, or maybe in the engine cover, and the idea was that you put your hand against it on the straight, the driver would, and that would block it, or... No, I remember what it was now. No. The hole would go... It would go into the bodywork, into the cockpit, and then it would go over the rear wing. But then if you blocked that with your hand, it rerouted the air just through the exhaust or something, to basically stall the rear wing. So it was like a very primitive form of DRS. And a few other teams, Sauber adopted it, and a couple of others, I think, as well. And then they got rid of it because it was dangerous and moved with aerodynamic device. But yeah, everyone is all saying A. And I think that's the same. This was a better car than the Ferrari, but again, it just wasn't. It wasn't on par with Red Bull in qualifying, and just about in races, but not enough really. Okay, after that is the Mercedes F1 W01. So Mercedes, third car technically when you can count, or second when you count the W196 Streamliner in the 1950s. Yeah, so this one again, I like the way it looks. I think it's a good looking car. I like the nose on it, and all of that, and it's a really good paint job. But a couple of podiums for Rosberg, none for Schumacher. Otherwise, it was basically fourth fastest, like kind of straddling the border between upper midfield and lower front runner. But yeah, everyone is saying B, which I think is reasonable. So yeah, we could put that in B. Okay, then it's the Red Bull RB6. So this, won the drivers and the constructors title. Absolutely brilliant car. Newey wagered that it had the most downforce of any Formula One car in history, which I think was probably true, to be honest. Obviously, since then, there will have been more. But yeah, very well designed. It had a really, really good double diffuser before they got banned. Insane qualifying car. They got pole in all but 3 or 4 races. They would have won more. Couple of driver errors, mostly from Vettel, but also reliability held them back. But they still dominated it. So yeah, and it's an obvious S. It's just all those 5 Red Bulls from 09 to 013 are all basically the same concept and all really good. Okay, next is the Renault R30. I think it was the R20. Yeah, the R30, because the 25 was 2005. So this one, again, very, very similar in performance to the Mercedes. Upper midfield, lower front runner, a couple of podiums. Kubica shone in it. Petrov put on a defensive masterclass in Abu Dhabi. yeah, there's a really good quali lap from Kubica in Suzuka that year, and he's completely driving it on the limit, and it's raggedy and just amazing, and it gets him to within maybe half a second of pole, and it's like you can tell that's the absolute peak of that car. But yeah, in terms of performance, it's hardly different from the Mercedes. So yeah, I think that goes as a B. Next is the Sauber C29. I absolutely love this car. I think it looks so cool. Like, it looks like what a 5-year-old or a 10-year-old would draw if they drew an F1 car, because it's got that big nose. The wheels are just so good. Like proper, like aftermarket custom wheels that you'd see on like Need for Speed Underground or something. Big shark fin, very plain livery because it's just black and white, and they had basically no sponsors that year other than Burger King, was it, or Chelsea Football Club or something. But yeah, it was at the beginning of the year. It was awful because Kobayashi was crashing all the time and it was breaking down a lot, and they were mostly kind of struggling to get out of Q2, the kind of lower midfield. It improved in the second half, and yeah, it got better, but it was still kind of a midfielder. Currently working on a ranking of every F1 livery ever inspired by your live stream, so both thanks for the idea, but also it's been a pain. Up to 19 every livery ever. Right, well, you can deal with that. That's too many for me. Every livery ever. God, how many? There's going to be hundreds of them. But yeah. Anyway, low C, C or D. Chelsea was 2012. Yeah, it was Burger King, I think, in 2011, 2010 even. But yeah, if this was based on looks, I'd put this in S. But in terms of performance, C or D. It's worse than the Force India. It's better than. The thing is, it's a bit too close to the Lotus if I put it in D, because in the second half of the season it was actually all right, and Kobayashi was like just on fire, but it did break a lot. Yeah, so yeah, we'll put that in D. So well, that's every category filled already. Okay, so next is the Toro Rosso STR5. So this was the first car that Toro Rosso built that wasn't built by Red Bull, because before that, every car they ran was just that year's Red Bull, but with a different engine, which is really interesting. So that means this is the thing that's very interesting. So, for example, the Toro Rosso STR3 in 2008, that was the Red Bull RB4, but with a year-old Ferrari engine, and yet it was faster. Which may have been partly because it was Vettel driving it, but also it was like, is that all it took? And then 2009. Red Bull have got the fastest car. Toro Rosso have exactly the same car, and it's just a Ferrari engine instead of a Renault engine, and suddenly it's the slowest car. It's just ridiculous. But yeah. So this is this one is it was their first independently built car. Low again, they were at the very bottom of the midfield, as ever. So most people are saying D. The front wheels, yeah, this is the one where, the wheels came off during practice in China, Buemi, because a front upright broke, and then the force of that breaking tore the other wheel off as well. But yeah, it was Sebastian Buemi, Jaime Aldrich. But yeah, lower midfield, it's slower than the Sauber, but faster than the Lotus, so we'll put that in D. Ooh, got over 100 people watching. Not a bad shout. Right, next up is the Virgin VR01. So put the Lotus in F. Maybe I will. We'll see as it goes on. I might rejig a few of these. I think. Okay, so the Virgin. Everyone loves this car in terms of looks, and obviously the Virgin livery is a classic. But I'm not a big fan of the way it looks, because to me it just doesn't look like a Formula One car. It's the nose is narrow and pointy, and it looks, I don't know in terms of its actual dimensions, it looks quite small compared to the other cars. I mean, maybe it was, because at the beginning of the season, obviously, this is the one that was famous because the fuel tank was not big enough to finish races. Luckily for them, they didn't finish the first race because both cars broke down. Australia, I don't think they finished that either. And then in Malaysia, Degrassi did finish, but by going in cruise mode and finishing like 5 laps down. But yeah, they brought in a massive upgrade package in Silverstone, which didn't really improve it much, to be honest. It made very little difference. This one, so yeah, in terms of it was obviously it was faster than the HRT, but it was slower than the Lotus. But I'm thinking F, and again, most people are saying F because, again, reliability was awful, and not having a big enough fuel tank is like, yeah, because this was the first Formula One car designed only using CFD, computational fluid dynamics. And one of the last, because their 2011 one, they did that. And I think since then, people have used a mixture of wind tunnels and CFD because they've realised that's not really working. So that's going to go in F. Okay. And then the final car of the 2010s is the Williams FW32. Yes, 26 in 2004, so yeah, 32. The Williams FW32. Okay, so this was Rubens Barrichello and Nico Hülkenberg. Obviously, Rubens got 4th place in Valencia. He almost got killed by Schumacher in Hungary. Hülkenberg got that famous pole position in Brazil, and then they rewarded him by firing him. Again, pretty good-looking car, but again, bog-standard midfielder. It finished... I think they beat Sauber, and they finished... I think there was 1 point in it between them and Force India in the constructors. I can't remember which one won it, but for this one, yeah, I think in the way, yeah, I'm thinking it can go in a C because it was very, very similar on part of the pot to the Force India. So, well, that's every 2010 car. So we've got 1 year done already. And what time is it now? 20 past. Okay. That's about 3 hours. Well, yeah. We'll be done. Yeah, we'll get it all done. Yeah, maybe I will need to reconsider some of these. Yeah, I'm putting the Lotus down. I think, yeah. Now that I think about it. No, that's Force India on C is the 2009. No, that's the 2010 one. The 09 one had a narrower nose. Maybe they got a wider one. The 2010 one had this huge nose on it. Yeah. What are your thoughts on AlphaTauri not showing up for the stewards hearing after Verstappen's impeding in quali? Seems like it's just Red Bull getting an advantage having a second team. I'd forgotten about that. Maybe they were thinking... I don't know, to be honest. I mean... people are going to accuse them of having some kind of special relationship. Although I don't really know how it is now. It seems more distant. And in Singapore, Lawson was not interested in just letting Verstappen pass. I mean, Verstappen passed him again anyway, but yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, Alpha is probably so... I don't know. I mean, Red Bull... It was obviously a very strange race to have them suddenly be so slow, but I think at the end of the day, they weren't too... They were probably annoyed about losing the winning streak, but not too bothered about... because they're only 2 races away from winning both championships, basically. Okay, moving on. So now 2011. So 2011, if in terms of technical changes, this was the year that introduced... Well, they reintroduced KERS, but everyone had it now except HRT because they reduced the weight limit so that you could... Or increased the weight limit, rather, so that it was worth putting it in. DRS came on, and so did Pirelli tyres. So 3 quite significant changes to the cars. And the first one up is the Ferrari F150 Cinquantisette, or whatever it is. It's whatever the Italian is for 150. I learnt it when I had to do the ranking, but I've forgotten what it is. But yeah. So this one, not very similar to the 2010 Ferrari, the basically kind of second or third fastest. They won 1 race. They won in Silverstone, which I saw because I went to that race. But that was only because they got the FIA to ban exhaust-blown diffusers for that weekend. And that allowed the off-throttle ones. And because they didn't have one, very convenient. And then they won the race. But that was the only one they won. So we're seeing F. It's not that bad. Low A, high B, BB, A or B. Low A, high B. I think it's obviously no better than the previous one, but it's not in the Mercedes and Renault territory from before, so I think put that in B. So then A even, sorry, not B. So then the Force India. Maybe that is the 2011, the 2009. Okay, well, whether it is or not, that is supposed to be the Force India VJM04. So this one was Satil and Diresta. Again, not basically the same as the previous one in terms of performance. I think, yeah. C, D. Their best result was 6th. Right, okay. Everyone can look up the stats for me while I'm doing this. That's good, yeah, because I can't do that at the same time. Yeah, everyone's saying C, and it's basically the same as the 2010 one, so yeah, that can go in C. I think Satil had quite a good year. Paul di Resta had a reasonably decent debut year. Satil had a good year, and then he went and stabbed that guy in the neck in the nightclub in China. Okay, another channel favourite, the HRT F111. So again, you could give this one, I think this one got an S on the livery ranking, because of course it has the famous This Could Be You livery. Designed by Daniel Simon, just to show off their lack of sponsors. But even so, it looks brilliant. You can't see it on here very well because it's a tiny image. So this one was not much different from the 2010 car. Again, it was the same basic Dallara built chassis, but they had some input from their new technical director Jeff Willis, who'd come from BAR and Honda before that. At the first race of the year, because they didn't test it at all. I don't think they went to pre-season testing with this car. And then the first race of the year, the front wing failed the crash tests, so they had to put the 2010 wing on it, and they failed to qualify. And then for the next race on, they had it, but yeah. And obviously Daniel Ricciardo made his debut in this car, but again, very, very slow. Although it was actually genuinely faster than Virgin, particularly in the second half of the year. They had races where both of them would out-qualify both Virgins, although I don't think they beat them in any races except Canada, where Liuzzi finished 13th, but yeah. FF. It's an obvious F, but yeah, I could just ramble on forever about an HRT. And of course, Carter Kahan got his record-breaking 24th place at the European Grand Prix in this. After that, then, is the Lotus T128. So this one they did have an exhaust-blown diffuser on this one. You can hear it. There's that famous video, people filming from Monza, all the cars braking for the first chicane, and you can hear the Red Bull and everything, and this one has one too. They had... I think they'd switched to Renault engines, actually, as well. They definitely had them when they became Caterham in 2012. The real Lotus or the fake Lotus? Yeah, this is the one. Obviously, there was the naming dispute because we had Lotus Renault and Lotus Renault. Because there was this one, which is like fake Malaysian Lotus, and then there was the other Lotus, which also wasn't the real Lotus, because the real Lotus was the one founded by Colin Chapman that folded in 1994. So that was a naming dispute. So this one became Lotus, and then they just called the other one Lotus Renault, even though on the constructors list it was called Renault, even though it says Lotus on the car. Yeah, best result 13th. They had Renault engines. Yeah, that makes sense. I think it was Monza. Maybe actually they finished 13th, something like that. Yeah, but anyway, the thing is, it's almost an E, because in terms of competitiveness, it was miles ahead of Marussia and HRT, but just nowhere near Toro Rosso. But probably just an F, I think, is a good thing for that. Okay, after that, the McLaren MP426. So this was undoubtedly the second fastest car in 2011. Very interesting shaped, like kind of U-shaped side pods. They had an exhaust-blown diffuser. They kind of copied Red Bull's, but they just didn't do it very well. So their car was good, but it wasn't good enough. Obviously, Button finished second in the constructors, in the drivers, and they finished runner-up in the constructors. But yeah, it's not an S. I don't think they won in Canada, and they won Hungary and Japan. So not many races, and China, but yeah, not many. So yeah, that's an A. Okay, now the Mercedes F1W02. So this one, again, hardly different from the first one. I mean, the nose has been raised up. Livery's a bit different. I think there were a couple of podiums. There probably was at least one. Schumacher was fighting for a podium in Canada, but then he dropped down to 5th, I think. But yeah, and I remember this one routinely being 4th fastest. Like every single race, they would qualify 7th and 8th, basically. Their best result was 4th. Is this based on performance and livery, or just... It's based on performance. I mean, looks play a tiny bit of a role, but no, this is based on performance. Just the car itself, not how the drivers did, necessarily. Yeah, that can go in B. Okay, the Red Bull RB7. Well, this is an obvious S, but this, again, very, very... Basically the same as the RB6, only they put the off-throttle exhaust blown diffuser, so they brought back exhaust blown diffusers. They had to get rid of the double diffuser, but then they put... I was reading Adrian Newey's memoirs. I think the way the exhaust thing, they basically manipulated the throttle mapping so that even when you're not pressing on the accelerator, it was still pushing exhaust gases out. So it gave them constant downforce. And they won... I think Vettel got pole in all but one race. I think Korea was the only race that year. The only race where Red Bull did not get pole, and Vettel won 13 races or something insane. So yeah, one of the best Formula 1 cars ever built. So yeah, that's an S. Right, the Renault R31, assuming it was called the R31. So this is the one that was... Everyone was basically a Lotus, but we had to call it a Renault because they were in the transition of being bought by fake Lotus, was Renault. And they put the John Player Special livery. This one, the main interesting technical point with this was that it had forward-facing exhausts. So it had exhausts actually at the front of the floor, just under the barge boards. And I think the idea was that then the exhausts would flow under the car and back under the diffuser. And initially it seemed quite an interesting concept because obviously you're going to... It's one method of having an exhaust blown diffuser, but you're utilising the entire floor rather than just the diffuser to get the downforce. The problem they had was that the downforce evaporated in low-speed corners, so they had an especially hard time at Singapore, where I think they were running around like 17th and 18th, just only in front of Lotus version and HRT. And this one was Petrov, Senna, and Heidfeld that drove this. They started the year with a couple of podiums in Australia, Malaysia, and then it just went downhill from there basically. So seeing CB, low CB, started good, exhaust was a dead end for development. Do you think Kubica could have won the first few races in this car? Probably not. I don't think that they were still miles away from Vettel, I think. But anyway, everyone's saying C, and I think it's a definite downgrade from the previous car. So yeah, we can put this in C. Okay, Sauber C30. So this one, they had a bit more going on in terms of sponsors. 2011, so it was Checo Perez and Kobayashi, and then De La Rosa for one race, because of course Perez had his big shunt in Monaco and had to sit out Canada. I don't think there were any podiums in 2011, and otherwise, yeah, run-of-the-mill midfield car, basically. I think Kobayashi, I think he started strong and ended weak, so it was kind of the opposite of 2010. But I'd say C. It was better than their previous car. It was much more reliable. In terms of pace, it wasn't that different. But yeah. Got 5th in Monaco. Yeah, I think that was his best. Yeah, I think low C for that one. Okay, then the Toro Rosso STR6. This car was okay, actually. I mean, it was still lower midfield or bottom end of the midfield, but Buemi and Al-Jaswari, both of them had quite good years. They both got a reasonable amount of points, enough to beat Williams at least, but then they both got dropped. And obviously Red Bull do make some very interesting decisions regarding drivers, thanks to Helmut Marko. But it was, to be honest, I thought it was a bit unfair to drop both of them. They could have put Buemi. He could have easily gone up to Red Bull instead of Ricciardo in the future. I don't know. Yeah, but in terms of performance, it was better, but not better to make a huge difference. So I think it's probably still in D territory along with their previous car. Then we have the the Virgin MVR01. So that year they got bought out sort of by Marussia, but they weren't actually Virgin yet, and it was mid-season that Virgin walked away, and I think they lost, they lost. His name will come to me. The guy who designed the car, and he designed the Simtech cars in the 90s. Their technical director left John Booth and the other guy whose game I can't remember, just to run it themselves. But yeah, okay, another back marker. Timo Glock, Jerome D'Ambrosio, not much to do. It was slower than HRT at points, so this is another F for that car. You can drive one of those actually, because there's one of them has been bought and it's been turned into like a track day car. I don't think it doesn't have the same engine, but you can do. I think it's got like a Formula 3 engine or something, but you can do track days in it if you've got like £1,000 spare. Nick Worth, yes, thank you, chat. Yeah, that was it, Nick Worth. Yeah. Okay, then it's the Williams FW33. So this was Barrichello and Pastor Maldonado. They scored maybe 1 point, I think, in 2011. So this was a huge drop down for them. I think we might have our first E, and I think that makes sense, because as bad as this car was, it still wasn't in the territory of the new teams. 5 points. Okay, yeah, maybe it was 1 for Maldonado and then a few for Barrichello. I don't remember. Yeah, it's a good looking car, but it was just bloody awful. They put a Renault engine in it, and normally that was good for them, but not this time. So yeah, E for that one. That's every car from 2011 done. Let's just have a look at the chat, see what people are saying. In my eye, most of the cars look bad regardless due to the rear wing. The narrow rear wing and the wide front wing put the car so off balance visually that it just makes them unsightly for me. Yeah. So for me, when it comes to I feel like the last true F1 cars were in 2008, because those cars, I mean, they had a lot of, appendages on them, but it was a really, really sleek look, and it had been that way for 10 years at least. A very gradual evolution, and then suddenly the 2009 cars come along, really, really wide front wings, really narrow rear wings, very high noses, everything's very blocky, and it's like, this just does not work. Obviously, the less said about 2014, the better, and then since then, it's just, yeah, the modern cars, they're all very futuristic. They just don't look like Formula 1 cars to me. Like, they just don't. Yeah. Anyway, so now 2012, and the first car is the Caterham CT01. So this car, again, they scored no points, but the car was not actually that bad, to be honest. Early in the season, it was very, very strong, because they were, again, miles ahead of Marussia and HRT. 2014, Bahrain, they came so close to beating Toro Rosso on pure pace. Kovalainen broke into Q2 in Valencia, and he was really, I think, within 1% of the fastest time or something. It was really good. And then they fell backwards in the second half because Marussia brought in an upgrade package and then caught up to them, and they got 11th. But yeah, I think an E, because it was again a back marker, but it was so far ahead of, well, until the second half, it was so far ahead of Marussia at least. HRT were never in the fight, but yeah, it was actually not. It could have been worse, definitely. Then it's the Ferrari F2012. This one, I feel like it's one of the most misunderstood cars ever, because everyone loves to say how much of a tractor it was, and that Alonso was just dragging it from like the back of the grid every week or something to the championship. And it's like, no, this car was really, really not as bad as people think it is. It's just that Massa was bad. That's what it was. But this car, so yeah, he won a few races, supremely reliable, which was very useful for him. Obviously, he got taken out by Grosjean a couple of times. It's not an S, but I think it's at least an A. Most people are saying A couple of Bs, a D, I don't know. Very good in the wet as well. Yeah, I think an A, to be honest, is fair enough for this one. It almost looks good. I mean, the nose is kind of ghastly, but also kind of interesting at the same time. But yeah, The colour scheme is very good, the white with the red. They did it very well that year. Okay, and then it's the Force India VJM05. Yeah, the VJM05. So this one, again, quite a pronounced stepped nose, but quite a good-looking car anyway. The very, very nice Kingfisher livery. But it was, yeah, and again, midfield, Paul de Resta, Nico Hulkenberg, not much to say, to be honest. I mean, you could almost make a case for putting it in B, but de Resta finished 4th in Bahrain and in 2013 because he had a tendency to run insanely long first stints. But otherwise, yeah, good points, but just a midfielder, so probably just a C, I think. Okay, and then the HRT F112. So this car, hardly different from the F111. They got rid of the shark fin engine cover. They got rid of their own extremely crude blown diffuser, put the exhaust right up. Slightly modified step nose, obviously brand new livery, which is amazing. They brought some upgrades, just a couple of things like Nacre exhaust to help with engine cooling by the driver's head. A couple of changes to the front wing elements, but then they brought a new floor which actually came off the 2010 car, so they were using upgrades from old cars on it. And yeah, they failed to qualify in Australia because again they hadn't tested the car except for doing 10-lap shakedown, and then they had no DRS in Australia, so they couldn't qualify with it. Pace-wise, again, good in a straight line, very good, very fast in a straight line. They were often fastest in the speed traps, but no downforce. Very unstable rear end, reasonably good in low speed corners, so they did well at Valencia. Again, Monaco, quite good times, but just, yeah, no downforce. And it broke down a lot, particularly in the second half when they were running out of money. And only once did they beat anyone on pace, and that was in Germany when De La Rosa beat Glock. So yeah, that's an F. Even if Narain Karthikeyan did get it up to 6th or 5th in Malaysia for about one sector. Then it's the Lotus E something. E20, I'm going to say. Probably not. But the 2012 Lotus. This is the car where you can drive it at Paul Ricard. Like you'll see like Driver 61 is doing the whole thing about, you can enter a competition to drive an F1 car. This is the car that you drive, painted in an Alpine livery now. So Kimi won a race in it. He got a few podiums. He scored points in every race except China. Grosjean crashed a lot. I don't think Grosjean got a couple of podiums. It's an A. It was a bit inconsistent. The pace was inconsistent, but when it was good, it was really good. So I think that can go in A. Then it's the Marussia MR03, I think, whatever they called it, the 2012 Marussia. So this was Timo Glock and Charles Pic. Again, most of the year they were fighting. They were faster than HRT, except mid-season HRT caught up with them. And then the second half, they brought a big upgrade package, and suddenly they were matching Caterham, and actually faster than them at points, including in Kota, and so nearly took 10th in the constructors off of them. But once again, not a huge. It's I'm seeing E's and F's. It's F or low E. It's almost an E. This is the thing. Reliability was good. I remember reliability being reasonably good. Qualifying, Glock got into Q2 once, I think. I guess I could just put it in E because it was, even though it was awful for most of the year. When it was good, it was matching Caterham. Okay, then the McLaren MP4 27. This one is interesting because it was objectively probably the fastest car in 2012, but had such bad reliability. And one very crash-prone driver and another one that was just slow for no reason. it was, really good qualifying car. Reliable. It's the reliability that was questionable. The race pace, it was kind of there or thereabouts with Red Bull. But Hamilton had 6 retirements, I think, from pole or something. He had breakdowns from the lead in Italy. No, in Singapore and Abu Dhabi at least. I think Hungary as well. Yeah, he broke down from the lead a few times. On pace it would be an S, but I think the reliability is maybe what's letting it down. Not Hungary. He won in Hungary. I think there were at least 3 races where he retired from the lead. I remember Singapore and Abu Dhabi being 2 of them. I can't remember what the third one is. And no step nose, as someone's pointed. Yes, that was they got away with not having a step nose. There was also the thing, of course, when he got sent to the back of the grid in Barcelona for having not enough fuel. I think an A on the basis of reliability, letting it down. Brazil, Brazil he was crashed into by Hulkenberg, so that wasn't his fault. But then Button won that race. Another good car in the wet, I think. Okay, so the Mercedes F1 W03. So this one's a bit puzzling. Extremely pronounced step nose, because by and large, its median sort of pace was basically the same as the previous 2 Mercs. But then they had China, where they got a 1-2 in qualifying, and then they would have got a 1-2 without the Schumacher's wheel coming off, and that was because they had like a double DRS system. I don't entirely understand what they'd done, but they put some ducts on the rear wing side, like end plates, that redirected air back over the wing and stalled it or something, which just made it really fast a straight line. So he won that race. But then the thing was, second half of the year, the pace just went nowhere, and they went like 6 races without scoring any points or something. It was ridiculous. So I don't know what happened with that car. On that basis, I might put it in C, because normally it would be, the other 2 are B, but then this one at its fastest was faster, but then at its slowest was slower. So I think a C is probably a good spot for that. Then we have the Red Bull RB8. So again, another sweep in the constructors and the drivers. This one they had to get rid of the exhaust blown diffuser. Or throttle one at least. Step nose. This one just didn't. It wasn't quite what they wanted. It just, in terms of pace and reliability, let Vettel down at some really key moments. Second half of the season, it was really strong and they really got into it, but it just, it was harder than it should have been. It was pretty weak at the beginning of the season. They were as much as possibly even 4th fastest at points. So I think for that one, that can go in A. I think it's not an S like the others. Then we have the Sauber C31. So this one's an interesting one, because it was a midfielder, but then they had podiums in Checo did Malaysia, where he almost won. And that's an interesting conspiracy theory about whether he was meant to win that or not. Canada, he gets a podium. No, Italy, he finished second again from 11th on the grid. So this is when I think both of them, him and Kobayashi, were both excellent at tyre preservation, and this was a season where you really needed it. And then obviously Kamui got his podium in Japan, and they had their front row, and he had a front row start in Belgium that all went to shit. So its median pace, it was a midfielder, but then they had a lot of really good races because they tended to sacrifice qualifying for race pace, which is probably clever. Perez, Canada as well, yeah. So I'd put it up. I think it goes on B because it was, a midfielder, but it did have the kind of standout moments that would raise it, I think. Then we got the Toro Rosso STR7. So this was Jev and the Honey Badger. Nice, very flat kind of platypus nose. But again, like with their previous two cars, basically the slowest midfielder. Scored a few points, not many. It was, that was kind of their role. That without Lotus version and HRT, they would have been the slowest. So it can go in D, and everyone's agreeing with me in the chat that it's a D car, that one. Then we have an interesting one, the Williams FW34. One of the most implausible race winners in F1 history. You can make it almost analogous. One comparison you could make would be something like the Leighton House in 1990 that was nowhere, and then they put some upgrades on it, and then Ivan Capelli almost won in Manicourt. The thing is, outside of the race win, it was mostly good in Maldonado's hands, because he had some races like Singapore, he started second or third or something, and again he started fourth or fifth in Belgium, but then jumped the start. Senna was a much more consistent point scorer, but just slower. He never got anywhere near podiums or wins. And Maldonado was just crashing endlessly. It was, So if we go into the other Williams, it was obviously better than the 2011 one. The 2010 one is in C, and this one, again, more extremes of being both faster and slower than that one at time. Although, actually, that one, again, had days when it really landed. The Williams was way faster than the drivers. Maldonado wasn't even as good as Grosjean, who wasn't that great himself. Yeah. Paul Ricard. Okay, yeah, not many call, yeah. Yeah. Maybe it is a car that would have done better with different drivers. This one, it is a tricky one. So I'm seeing mostly B's and C's. Ultra compact engine cover. Yeah, it did have a very strange engine cover, because it stopped like well short of the exhausts, and so there was this weird like pointy arrow bit coming off the end that was just kind of sat there loosely. I think a B, just in terms of, maybe. Let's assume it was better than it looked if it had better drivers. This is the kind of car where if you put Alonso in it, he would have probably got it. He could have taken it maybe to like fourth in the constructors or something, with no help from his teammate. Okay, so that's every 2012 car done. So we're getting through. What time is it now? Okay, well that's not bad. So that's taken just under an hour to do the first 3 seasons. So yeah. Out of 10. Alonso would have got 3 to 4 podiums. Yeah. I think he would. Obviously, he himself would have won in Spain with that car. But yeah, he could have got a few podiums. He wouldn't have crashed as much. So yeah, that's the thing. I think I looked at this in the iceberg. About if this car was a title contender. I need to, if I do a third iceberg, I'll look at the whole thing about Barcelona apparently being rigged so that he could win, because they gave them better tyres to celebrate. It was a 200th or 300th race for Williams or something. Apparently they gave them better tyres, and that's how he won. And then they set the garage on fire to destroy the evidence or something. All good fun. Okay, so 2013, so the final year of the sort of diffuser era, as I call it, and the final year of V8s and naturally aspirated engines. Frank's 70th birthday, yeah, that makes more sense. So first up is the Caterham CT02, or was it the 3? Yeah, they went 135. The 2013 Caterham, which I'll be honest is exactly the same as the last one. It just has a slightly different. They just gave it a new lick of paint, but it's the same car. It's literally the same car. Like I was driven by Guido van der Garde and Charles Pic, and no points. The best they got was 13th, I think. There was Spa, Van der Garde got it into Q2 or possibly Q3 and then dropped like a stone. Everyone's saying F. And they did get beaten by Marussia because of, Jules Bianchi. It was just I don't remember. It's such a dull year. Maybe this one goes in F because it's just depressing. I think you can put it in F on the basis that it should have been an improvement and it just wasn't. They went nowhere. Charles Pic, maybe I'll do a video on him because he's someone, he is so utterly forgettable and everyone forgets about him. And one of the most boring and just dull careers of any driver. You do 1 year at Marussia and then you sign for Caterham. You can't even get something better than that, and then that's it, you're done. And now he's running dams in Formula 2. Yeah. After that, it's the Ferrari. Didn't they call this one like the F138? I don't think it was just called the F2013. The 2013 Ferrari. So again, not that different from the 2012 car. It had the same kind of step nose. The nose is interesting. It kind of looks good on this one. The F138, yeah, I was right. It was the F138. But Alonso finished runner-up, and he won. He did win a couple of races. I can't remember which ones, but there was at least a win somewhere in the second half before Vettel won all the ones in the other half. In the first half, before Vettel won all the ones in the second half. More slope smoothed out. Yeah, you can see it in the picture. Maybe that's what makes it look good. It still has that very wide mouth, and it sort of works. It's like it's got walrus tusks or something. If you move even slower, you were going back through time. Everyone towards Caterham. I think it was either 2012 or Charles Pic or 2013 Charles Pic. He broke the record for most overtaken driver in a season or something. Very well done. Yeah, let's go in A. Basically the same as the 2012 one, just the Red Bull was better. Then it's the Force India VJM06. So Adrian Statil, Paul di Resta. Again, they got rid of the step nose. Otherwise, it's no different from the other car. Like di Resta, he finished fourth in Bahrain again. Statil got some points, and then he got dropped. Di Resta got dropped, which I think was a little unfair, to be honest. It's just, but it's not C again. ... Yeah, it's the same. Like there's no different. I think they may have finished in the same place in the constructors every year as well, like 6th or 7th or whatever it was. Then it's the Renault. What would they call this one? The Lotus E21, I think so. Again, it's the same car. Every car in 2013 was the same. They were just the same. Like they didn't change at all. And yeah, it looks almost indistinguishable from the previous Lotus. No wins, but several podiums. Grosjean had a really good year. Raikkonen had to miss the last 2 races, but yeah, it was the same car. Like it just was. It's just the Red Bull was so bloody fast. Yeah, Grosjean got 6 podiums. Yeah, I think that's... Oh, Australia. Yeah, sorry, they did. They won the first race. Back when the tyres were made of cheese. Yeah. Yeah, so that can go in A. We're getting a lot of A's here. Next up, with the Caterham just behind it, the Marussia MR02. Yeah, 2. So again... Not really any different, except they had switched from Cosworth to Ferrari engines. That seemed to improve things. Obviously, Jules Bianchi drove the socks off it. He finished like a minute ahead of Caterham in Australia. He then got 13th in Malaysia, and in so doing, 2 races in, he'd sealed 10th place for them. Max Chilton did nothing except finish. I mean, he finished every race that year, so he broke the records. Or I think he became the first rookie to finish every race in their rookie season. 2014, maybe they did. 2013, no, because they would have been the only people using Cosworth in 2013 because HRT had gone. Still on Cosworth. Okay, yeah, but yeah, it was the same car. But it was obvious. It was faster than the Caterham, so they can go in E. Then we got the McLaren MP429. 23, 28. The MP428. Okay, so this one, what they'd taken what was basically the fastest car in 2012 and thought, let's scrap that and do something completely different. And their reward was to not get a single podium. I mean, externally, it looks basically the same, but in terms of its performance, it was such a huge drop for them. I don't remember a huge... I know that Checo had joined... I mean, this is something that... It's so easy to forget that Checo spent a year at McLaren. That's his... Other than Red Bull, his only time in a top team, but when they weren't at the top. He was being very aggressive with Button in Bahrain, but otherwise nothing happened, and they tried a new concept and it didn't work. That can go in B because it wasn't terrible, but it could have been better. Then we got an interesting one, the Mercedes F1 W04. So Hamilton and Rosberg together, immense qualifying car. Like they got so many pole positions, but then it just ate the tyres for dinner in the races, and they would just plummet down. So Rosberg won 2 races. He won in Monaco, and then he won somewhere else, and then Hamilton won in Hungary, I think. So they got 3 wins. Amazing qualifying car, just really, really bad in the races, and a lot of people are saying A. S, yeah. We had won A, S for qualifying, yeah. Silverstone, no, Hamilton, Silverstone, of course, because Vettel's engine went, his gearbox even. And Hamilton was leading, and then he had the tyre blowout. That was a weird race, Silverstone 2013. So I think an A for that. Then we have the Red Bull RB9. So this one, again, not really hardly different from the RB8. In the beginning of the season, it was kind of there or thereabouts on pace, but then when they switched from 2013 to 2012 spec cars, it just came alive, and obviously Vettel got 9 wins in a row. So another absolutely brilliant car. It's just the tyres that it was the tyres that just killed. Well, it killed every car that year, but this one, like, put it on some proper Bridgestones and it would just be off the rails. After that is the Sauber C33 29 Sauber C32. So this was Nico Hülkenberg and Esteban Gutierrez. Hülkenberg was very good, I remember that year. Gutierrez, he got fastest lap in Spain, and he got points. I think he finished 7th in Japan. A lot of people saying C. I think that's fair because it was similar. It was more dependable on pace than the previous Sauber, but it wasn't. They didn't have any like breakout moments. Although Hülkenberg, he finished 4th in Italy. Or Bahrain. No, De Resta was 4th in Bahrain. I think it was Italy, but yeah, 4th in Korea, yeah. Just less exciting than the previous car. Maybe that's because the drivers were less exciting. So I think a C is good for that one. How many cars? Oh Christ, yeah, quite a few left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 22, 23, 24, 55. Right, more than 60 cars left. Right, nice. Then it's the Toro Rosso STR 8. Yeah, I remember it's 1 less than the Red Bull because they started a year later. Again, not much to say. Ricardo Verne, slowest midfielder. Again, it doesn't do much. I think they got fewer points maybe than 2012, but there's nothing. I remember absolutely nothing about the car. So it's like their previous 4 cars. It's a D. Previous 3 even. Then we have the Williams FW33. So this was Maldonado and Bottas. Again, it looks really good. The livery is great, the Phillips livery and everything, but it suddenly, the pace just went out the window again. And it wasn't much different from the 2011 car. I think they only did get 1 point that year or two. Bottas got it on the front row, didn't he, or second or third in the rain in Canada, and then it just obviously dropped like a stone in the race. And then I only know this because it was I found out when researching for the next video that's coming out. Was Maldonado accusing the team of sabotage after they announced that he wasn't joining racing for them again in 2014. He accused them of basically sabotaging his car to make him look bad. 8th in COTA, but yeah, it's an E because it's hardly different from the 2011 car. Right. Okay. Well, that's every 2013. So that's all of the V8 diffuser cars. Next is the hybrids. Brilliant. Okay. So. Oh boy. First up, the Caterham CT05. This might be my least favourite Formula One car ever. Renault engine, absolutely horrific nose, which they did clean up in the second half. They introduced a new nose cone that was much nicer. But the car, what annoys me about this car most is the fact that Kobayashi was wasted on it. Like, he ended up in a whole year driving this heap of junk, which it couldn't, like, it would overheat the brakes, and it couldn't get the tyres up to temperature. And you can see the onboards, how much him and Ericsson are struggling. They came nowhere near points, except in Monaco. I mean, maybe they could have if Bianchi hadn't barged past. It is truly, like, in terms of lap, I think actually, like, in terms of raw lap pace, it might actually be the slowest car because the 2014 cars was so much slower than the previous ones. I'll have to look at that. I'll look through quali times to see if it was faster than the 2010 HRT. But yeah, absolutely horrific car. Just nothing good about it. They went through like 4 different team principals, I think, because they had Tony Fernandez, and then they sold the team to some consortium, and then it was Christian Albers, and then he rage quit after like 4 races. Then it was his second in command, I've forgotten it, Manfredi Rivetto, his second in command. Then they temporarily gave it, when the team went into administration, they handed the keys over to the custodian at the factory, this Romanian guy, who used to be a footballer or something. And then it was Finbar O'Connell for Abu Dhabi. So they had 5 team principals in 1 year. It was just a train wreck of a year, and such a terrible car. Oh, my mouse battery's died. Just plug that in. Right, okay. After that is the Ferrari F14T. So this is the one that gets memed to within an inch of its life, because they're like, oh, it's the car that can oversteer and understeer at the same time. Not their best work, obviously. I mean, it's fuck ugly as well. It looks like a Hoover. Like, when you look at the nose, it looks like the Hoover in the Teletubbies to me. Or something like that, or some kind of muscular tube like a trunk on an elephant, or a proboscis or something. I mean, Alonso drove the socks off it. Kimi was absolutely useless in 2014. C and B, CC, B. Yeah, it's going to be between B and C. I mean, I'm looking at the other B cars. Alonso drove it like hell. It wasn't such an obvious... This is the thing, it wasn't really true midfield territory. I mean, that year, it would have been behind... It was basically the 4th fastest. It was slower than Mercedes, Red Bull, and Williams. It was, I think, the next fastest, to be honest, wasn't it? It was very similar to, like, McLaren and Force India. B and a half. Nearly won in Hungary. I think it gets into B by the skin of its teeth, like, only just, because Alonso drove so hard in it. Then we have the Force India VJM06 7. 1, 2. The VJM07. So Nico Hulkenberg, Sergio Perez. Checo got a podium in Bahrain and possibly another one later on. It could, in terms of pace, like in terms of looks, I don't mind the livery. They managed to hide the nose, so it doesn't look too terrible. But again, they built another midfield car. It's just marginally better than the ones they had before. I think enough of an improvement over a couple of the others. On the basis that he dragged it into the podium a couple of times, I think that can go in B. Then we've got the Lotus E14, where they built... I don't know what they were thinking when they built, obviously, this, like, tusk nose. The walrus nose. No, the walrus nose is the Williams. The sort of tusk nose, but they're asymmetrical. So, sort of... one was shorter than the other. It's like, I don't know. Yeah. Really bad. Maldonado and Grosjean, which is the most destructive team lineup in history. Really bad car, only a couple of points, broke down a lot, just awful thing. So yeah, let's put it in E. I think it doesn't deserve any better. Then we have the Marussia MR03. So this again was a bit of a downgrade. It was better than the Caterham, still not fantastic, obviously. And then Bianchi died. Well, not in it, but from injury sustained in the car. That may not have been such a comment on the car itself, because I think change the car and any driver probably would have had the same injuries in that accident. He got it in the points in Monaco. Obviously, I've covered that before. Race of high attrition, and he used some interesting tactics, and there was some interesting penalty systems going on. The Monaco was a fluke. It was a fluke. Yeah, it was not on pace. He got very lucky to get those points. But it was better than the Caterham. I guess an E. On that basis that it's better. It was better than their previous cars. I think similar to the 2013. So yeah, that can go in E. Didn't race after Russia. Yeah, they went into administration after Russia and didn't come back, whereas Caterham did. Well, they came back in 2015, but just. Yeah. Next up is the McLaren MP430... MP429. So this was Jenson Button and Kevin Magnussen. Completely new livery. Again, horrible nose. It was quite a nice lip of silver. I remember that after he got the podium in Australia, Magnussen thought he was going to be fighting for the title, and then he finished like 10th or 11th in the standings. I don't think there were any... Well, apart from that, I don't think there were any other podiums. It was all right. I think it's one of these cars that was flattered by the fact that it had a Mercedes engine. And that alone was probably worth like a second a lap. I don't know. Everyone, yeah, B, a couple of C's, but most people are saying B. Yeah, I'll go B for that. Right, Mercedes F1W05 Hybrid. Okay, so this is the car. Obviously, they won the only races they didn't win. Canada, because both cars had, I think it was ECU failures or turbocharger failures. And then in Monaco, and then in Belgium, Rosberg gave Hamilton the puncture, and then Rosberg got damage, and then Ricciardo beat them. Yeah, it was so fast they had to basically sandbag for the entire season to stop like the FIA penalising them for being too fast. I mean, you've seen like safety car restarts; they put like 2 seconds on everyone at the end of the first lap. It was just unreal. Yeah. Then it's the Red Bull RB10. So this was a huge letdown for Red Bull. Aerodynamically, it was very good. The engine was rubbish, and obviously this is the main thing. Red Bull's aerodynamics have always been top tier because because Newey is just a wind tunnel on legs. And where they've been let down for most of their history is their engines. Up until basically 2020, they had awful engines that either weren't very powerful or just broke all the time. But now they've got really powerful engines that never break. The main letdown was the Renault engine. But they were opportunistic because obviously Ricciardo took a couple of wins. But yeah, not an S. Yeah, that's an A. Then it's the Sauber. I'm getting my numbers mixed up. This one is the 33 or the 30, 29, 30. This is the Sauber C33. Okay, this car is terrible. I mean, it didn't help that it had two terrible drivers. It was Gutierrez and Sutil. How they did not score a single point is utterly just bewildering, and they got beaten by Marussia because of that. Awful nose. Nothing much to say. Yeah. It was upside down in Bahrain. Of course, he got flipped over by Maldonado. But yeah, it's an E. Really not a good time for Sauber. They were running very low on money, I think, at the time. Then it's the Toro Rosso STR9. So again, Hugh really, I mean, this was by far the most well endowed, I think, of all the cars that year. This was Jev and Kvyat. Again, they didn't improve. It just wasn't. It was the same. Like that. Yeah, same livery. Just the nose is different. But yeah, just the same. So a D. Then it's the Williams FW36. I'm going to say 32. Yes, 36. 90. Yeah, the Williams FW36. Okay, so this is another car which it was flattered by the Mercedes engine that just made it a rocket in a straight line. They got a front row lockout in Austria, but then didn't win. Several podiums, good team combo, Massa, and all of that. A, B, easy A. 9 podiums. Yeah, it was a good year for Williams, one that they needed. Yeah. Even if Claire Williams was basically pushing the team backwards while everyone else was trying to drag it forwards. So I put an A. That's all of 2014 done. So that I think that's officially the halfway mark in terms of cars. I mean, there's more than half because there were more cars, 12 at the beginning of the decade compared to 10 at the end. But yeah, so 2015. So first up, Ferrari SF15H. So this was a car which I think was kind of in a similar situation to Alonso, Aston at the beginning of this year, of just second fastest and there to win races if if Mercedes can't. Vettel had an exceptional year. He was really, really good the whole year, and he got 3 wins. But yeah, it's an A. It's not an S, obviously, so it's an A. It was just that the Mercedes were just faster everywhere, and they couldn't really touch them properly. Then it's the Force India VJM06. I hate the way this car looks. I don't like them. They've got the nose with 2 big holes in the front of it, which is just not brilliant. If there was, well, obviously it was Checo, Hulkenberg. If there were any podiums, it was Checo again. I just don't remember. C, maybe B because of Belgium. Belgium 2015. Belgium 2015 was Grosjean. That was Mercedes, and then Grosjean third. Yeah, I don't remember that year very well because it was so boring. And this car, where's the previous? The other one, I don't know if it was quite. I put it in C. I don't think it was quite so good. Russia. Oh, he got a podium in Russia. Yeah, I think C. It wasn't quite as good as the previous one. Then it's the Lotus E15. So this one was actually better. It was much better actually than their previous car. Mercedes engine, and that's the interesting thing about Belgium, is that they were given party mode to allow them to put pressure on Vettel, and then Vettel gets his tyre blowout and Grosjean gets third. Grosjean was okay. Maldonado was just diabolically bad. He was crashing every single weekend. The other car was an E. Let me think. It's not a D, but yeah, no, it got the podium, so I think it's yeah. I think it's a C. I'll put that in there. Okay, after that is the Marussia MR03B. So this is the first B-spec car we've had. I mean, I think it counts as a different car just. So what happened here was that they had gone into administration, but then at the last minute in like January, John Booth managed to get the funds together to resurrect the car. The cars had been sold at auction. He bought them back. And all they did to the car, it was exactly the same as 2014, even the same engine. They put a couple of modesty panels on the nose cone because they got rid of the rule about having penis noses, and they put some titanium skid plates on the floor because everyone had to have them. Other than that, it was exactly the same, and it was one of the least competitive cars in Formula 1 history. I mean, that year, I've covered it. One of my very, very old videos covering Marussia 2015. They were often anywhere from about 2 seconds off of McLaren. Like, it was so slow. And it was Will Stevens, Roberto Merri, and Alex Rossi. Absolutely nowhere. Not reliable. Not in the least bit competitive. But it looked good. But yeah, it's an F. Really, really bad car. Then we've got the McLaren MP4. I'm getting I can't think of my numbers. The MP431 or the MCL 31. That was the year they started calling them the MCL. So this is the car with the GP2 engine in it. So again, terrible car, second slowest in 2015, only faster than the Marussia. Not very reliable. Also looked awful. Alonso just didn't. This was him at his worst as well because he was just moaning all the time. They would retire from races just because why not? Because there's no point. Yeah, he got fifth in Hungary. I think that may have been the only points all year, or that was the only remotely good result. So yeah, that's an E. I mean, I wonder if you could call that the worst McLaren ever. I'm trying to think. Going back, 1980, I don't remember. I think 79, 80 were pretty rubbish years for McLaren. Maybe their first year, 66, when they were just getting going. But yeah, possibly. But yeah, quite possibly the worst McLaren ever made. And then we got the Mercedes W06, so another S because the nose is different, but the car was just supreme everywhere else. They fell by the only weaknesses that it had, and the only weaknesses that Mercedes had at all during their era was it did have a problem with overheating. So they were having Malaysia. It was a mixture of the hot temperatures meant they were graining a lot, and also Ferrari for once in their life played the strategy well, so they lost. Hungary was just a complete shit show because I think everyone was a bit. Bianchi's death and the tribute probably just threw everyone off a bit. And then Singapore, like with Red Bull, they just inexplicably lost all their pace and just for some reason. But it's an S, yeah. A car with almost no weaknesses. Then we've got the Red Bull RB11. So that is the this is I think the worst. No. The worst car they made was their second one, the RB2 2006. In the Adrian Newey era, this is the worst car they've built. They got a couple of podiums, but otherwise they were hovering around. It was basically fourth fastest car. and Kvyat beat Ricciardo in the points just. It just didn't come together. It was a waste of a year for them. It wasn't a true midfielder, so, and it got a couple, so it can go in B. I think is fair enough. Then it's the Sauber C34. I hate this car. Like the look. I don't like the livery because they brought in Felipe Nasr, Banco do Brasil, so bright. This really, I don't like the blue. Obviously there was the big court case with Van der Gaard at the beginning, trying to get a seat from either Ericsson or Nasr, but Nasr had some decent results. Kind of, so I'm seeing D, B, S. Yeah, the car could have been worse. I think better than D. I think a C is probably the right place to put that. Then it's Toro Rosso STR10. So this Carlos Sainz and a young boy called Max Verstappen driving this one. I think we might have the first Toro Rosso not in D. It's yeah. I mean, both obviously both drivers are very good. Max was supreme. Couple of fourths, couple of fifths. Yeah, they sort of broke themselves away from just being slowest midfielder. So yeah, that can go in C. I think not a bad car by Toro Rosso standards, I don't think. Then the Williams FW37. Yeah, the 2015 Williams. Again, hardly different from the 2014 one. Slightly different nose, but in terms of performance, I think it was a bit worse on performance. Once again, it was flattered by the engine. There will have been some podiums. I don't think there was a pole position, but it was probably all right. We got a couple of C's. A, B. I might put it in B. I think there was a bit of a slump because they fell behind Ferrari, but then Red Bull. No, they would have been third fastest. Yeah, no. I think B. Yeah, it was a downgrade from that they fell behind Ferrari, so I think it was a downgrade from before. Then we've got that's all of 2015 done. Okay. So we're getting, in terms of balance, it's only 5 cars in S, quite a few in A and B at the moment. 6 cars in D, 5 of which are Toro Rossos as well. Yeah. Interesting. Okay, 2016. So the Ferrari SF16H, was it, or the SF16T? It was one of those. Very pretty car, because they brought back... I think they deliberately were trying to emulate the sort of mid-70s livery with the white. It should have won races, but didn't. So close. The red flag came at just the wrong time in Australia. Vettel was rapid in Abu Dhabi. I mean, it helped that Lewis was deliberately backing everyone up so that they'd pass Rosberg. It should have won races, but didn't. Otherwise, was reasonably good on reliability. I'm seeing A, B, C. Interesting. Good early, but fell off. 4. I think it's an A, to be honest. This is like probably one of the best non-race winning cars in F1. It's just that it happened to be up against one of the best racing F1 cars ever. That was the problem. Maybe a low A. Yeah, it's not. Yeah, no, it's an A. I can't put it in B. Like, I'm looking at the other ones in there. It's definitely better than those. Then we've got the Force India VJM 09. 2016, the 2016 Force India looks almost exactly the same as the 2015 one. There were some podiums. It'll come to me in a second where that they will have had Checo will have had at least one, I'm sure. But I remember, I think it was that year when he had that massive crash at Hungary, or that was Hulkenberg, where the front wing broke off. 2 podiums, yeah. I don't remember where, but they happened. Maybe Bahrain again. Europe and Monaco. Baku, yes, Baku and Monaco. Okay. Where's the other? This one, yeah. What we're seeing B, low A. Monaco, Azerbaijan got torpedoed. I think in terms of performance, it's basically the same as the 2014 one, maybe a bit better than 2015. So I think that goes in B, to be honest. Qualified second in Baku, got grid penalty. Right, okay, yeah. I remember Baku because Hamilton crashed in Q3 and he started 10th. And then he finished 5th and Rosberg won. Yeah. Right, and then we've got the first Haas, the VF16. So, as first cars goes, not bad. You know, solid midfield. Very strong start to the year. I mean, he got very lucky in Australia to finish 6th or 5th, and then did that again in Bahrain. Gutierrez got no points. Rosberg got a fair few, but otherwise it was almost always in Q2. So we're seeing B, B, C, D, C, D. Brakes issues. Yeah, that seems to be a perpetual problem with mostly. This seemed to affect Grosjean mostly was the brakes, because I think they switched in 2018, but they were using they changed brake manufacturers to try and help Grosjean, and even now, 7 years on, they're still having problems where the car lights up in qualifying and then the tyres just melt in the race. Even with all the regulation changes, they can't improve that. Yeah, but no, good first car, solid midfielder, so that can go in C, I think. Then we've got the Manor MRT-01. I can't remember the name, but the 2016, the Manor in 2016. This, fortunately for them, was a considerable improvement over their previous car. Mercedes engine, again, that probably flattered it a lot. Pascal Wehrlein, Rio Haryanto, and then Esteban Ocon. That's the other one. But yeah, MRT-05, that's the one. But yeah, Wehrlein got a point in Austria, and a very well-deserved one. Yeah, definitely a better car. Not in D. I don't know. Well, if I was feeling generous, I could put it in D. If I was feeling really generous. It's just that they only got 1 point. I don't remember them coming particularly close to getting any other points. I think they got lucky against Sauber, because broadly speaking, Sauber were faster than them. I think E. Yeah, a lot of people are saying E, so that can go in there. Then it's the McLaren MP4, whatever, the 2016 McLaren. 20, what would that be, 31, 32, something like that. So this one, again, better than the previous one, but not by much. There were some points, not many. Where's the other one? That one's in E. C. I'm seeing C's and D's. I struggle to remember much about this car again. Well, at the beginning it was okay. I mean, Alonso had that big crash, but then Van Dorn got a point, didn't he, in Bahrain? There were a few other points here and there. They were still lower midfield. DDC. Maybe it should go in C, because I'm thinking D. Comparing it to the Toro Rossos, it wasn't as consistently at the back. Yeah, let's put that in C, I think, as well. Then it's the Mercedes W07. Good luck finding any differences between this and the previous car, except for the big exhaust thing they put on the back. I've forgotten what it was called. I've forgotten what it's called now. It'll come to me in a second. But in 2016, all the cars, they basically had to put loudspeakers on the back to make the exhaust louder. But otherwise, like, it's the same car. Like, it's not any different at all. I mean, this is when I did my 2010 cars ranking video, I put this as number 1 because it was objectively the fastest car at every single weekend. And the only reason they lost in Spain was because they took each other out. And the only reason they lost in Malaysia was because Rosberg got spun around by Vettel at the start and then Hamilton's engine blew up. But yeah. And they got pole. I think they got pole at every single race as well. I'm pretty certain. I don't remember anyone else taking a pole position in 2016. So yeah. But it's just, yeah. It's like, why, if it's not broke, don't fix it. That's, I think, the basic idea with that one. Then it's the Red Bull RB 12. My mind's gone blank. The RB12, yeah, that's the one. Ricciardo in Monaco, sorry, yes. Okay, well, that was because... Okay, that rate... Yeah, oh no, he lost. Yes, Ricciardo lost that one. Okay, well, Monaco is Monaco, so if you get pole, you've won. Usually. They weren't that... Was it wet in quali? The race was wet. I don't remember quali. I don't know. Yeah. It was marginal. It was really marginal. Anyway, 2016 Red Bull. So Max wins on his debut. Torpedo has his torpedo moments. Ricciardo gets the win, I think. Yeah, again, a car that would have been good if Mercedes wasn't there. And a massive improvement over the previous car. Quali was dry, right, yeah. Yeah. Then it's the return of Renault. So the Renault RS16. Again, not brilliant. The only standout memories, it was Jolyon Palmer and Kevin Magnussen. My only standout memory was Magnussen's enormous shunt at Radeon in Spa that took off the his the headrest, that tore the headrest off. They got a few points back into the midfield. D and E, Renault D, Magnussen, yeah. Maybe the driver lineup dragged it down. Maybe it did, yeah. Maybe it did. It wasn't brilliant. Magnussen P7 in Russia. That was the only. Maybe that might have been the only points actually. I think most people are saying, I'm looking at the ones in E. I think D is fair enough. We need to get something in there that isn't a Toro Rosso. Then we have the Sauber C38. No, not the C38, sorry. The C35. That's the one. Palmer P10 in Malaysia. Oh, he did get one, because, yeah, he got 2017, he got a point. He got points in Singapore and then got dropped. So he got, yeah, not a couple, but not many. Anyway, yeah, so the 2016 Sauber, this was a huge step back. It doesn't look that different to the other one, to be honest. But this was the year when NASA was accusing them of sabotage because Longbow Finance took over, and then suddenly Ericsson started beating him out of nowhere. And then NASA saved them. He got them. He alone got them 10th in the constructors, and then he got dropped. But where's the Manor? I think it's on par with the Manor. Yeah. For a team like Sauber, they shouldn't be doing that badly, so you can put that one in E. Then it's the Toro Rosso, the STR11. That's right. STR11, the Toro Rosso STR11. So this started with Max and Carlos and was there or thereabouts. Then it was Kvyat and Carlos, and no podiums that I can remember. It was okay. A little bit similar to the 2015 one. Maybe the 2015 one looks better because Max was driving it. But also better than the other Toro Rossos. What are people saying? E for Sauber. CCB, that's very generous. CDC. I'm seeing a lot of C's. I don't think it's quite on par with their earlier work. So we'll put that in C. Oh, I'm rattling through these quite fast now. Then it's the Williams, and that is the Williams 28. The FW28, the FW38. Yes, the FW38, the 2016 Williams. So Massa and Bottas again, performance-wise, not much different from the previous two cars. Of course, in Singapore, Silverstone even, they took the lead at the beginning and then obviously lost on pace to Mercedes. That seemed to be the big standout moment. Bottas got the only podium, only one podium, goodness, in Canada. Yeah, so where are the other two? The 2014 is an A, the B... Yeah, I think Silverstone was 15. B... Was it 15? I thought it was 16. Because it rained... No, it was definitely 2016, wasn't it? It rained really hard, like 10 minutes, 15 minutes before the race start. There was this huge rain shower. And so they decide, oh, now we have to start behind the safety car instead of just letting them race for once. And then they spent like 20 minutes behind the safety car. They're like, oh, the track's dry, so now you can race. And they ruin the race. And oh, no, it is 2015 when they took the lead. I don't know. 2016, yeah, behind the safety car. I don't know. I'm getting everyone mixed up. 16 Verstappen was up there. Silverstone got wet at the end. Silverstone 2015 got... Oh, I'm getting all my races mixed up. These 3 years are a blur because they were so boring and it was all the same and all the cars were ugly and I don't know. Yeah, Silverstone 2015. Yes, that got wet at the end. I remember that now. Yes. And then it must have been 6, and then 16 it did race at the start. Could you do a video of Jim Clark? I'm sure I could. I mean, I haven't done a driver biography in a while. I was going to do one on Heinz-Harald Frentzen because he's following me on Twitter. I don't know how much he'd appreciate somebody making a video about him. I might ask him, am I allowed to do this, or are you going to get funny? But yeah. No, I could do one on Clark. I might do videos on every champion at some point, to be honest. Yeah. Anyway, enough about me getting my Silverstones mixed up. So 20A, I think in B, not hugely different from the 2015 car. So that's the end. That's all the 2016 ones. So now we have the wide body hybrids, and suddenly they got fast again, and they started to look good again. So first up, the Ferrari SF. This one I think was called the SF70, wasn't it? Or the SF17. SF17H. That sounds right in my mind. So this, yeah, at the beginning of the year, really, really good. Not a very good qualifying car. There were only 1 or 2 pole positions. But race pace was really good, especially first half of the season. Mercedes was still finding their feet, but Vettel was very solid. Second half, Silverstone... Okay, Singapore alone did not cost Vettel the championship. It was the fact that reliability went out the window. Most of what I'm seeing is A. A couple of S's. Interesting. I don't know if you could make a case for an S. My reasons on race pace, I think you could call it an S, but not on quali pace and not because of reliability. So because of that, it goes in A. But very, very pretty car. Like, yeah, it's nice wide tyres, wide body, really, really works. They were all good looking cars in 2017. Then it's the Force India. This is the VJM10, the pink Force India. Um, so that this was actually very good. This was their best car in a while because Ocon scored points in every race except Monaco. He was just supreme, I think. Unless maybe it was the last race he got taken out in Brazil. But other than that, he got points everywhere. But it was, in terms of consistency, like one of the best cars from that perspective. A few clashes. But yeah, nowhere near podiums. But yeah, in terms of, it's a good, super consistent, no podiums, consistent points finisher. Brazil, best finish was 4th and 5th in Spain. Yeah, the only track where they didn't have any pace was Monaco, and they finished like 13th and 14th or something. But yeah, B, perfectly good upper midfield car. Then we have the Haas VF17. So this one, it was better than the 16, but not by much. They were kind of straddling the points with this one. They got points sometimes. There are a couple of good races. Magnussen did. Everyone remembers Ricciardo's at Baku 2017, but Magnussen had a double overtake of his own there. This one, they did have problems with the brakes. But again, I don't remember a huge amount else. Where did I put the other? I put the other one in C. Yeah, so I'll put this one in C as well. It was better, but not better like enormously. Okay, this is the first McLaren that was named the MCLs. So the McLaren MCL, whatever the number was, probably 31. Big bright orange thing in papaya. Alonso and Van Dorn, not a good car. Similar to 2016, probably. Some points, I'm seeing a lot of E's. D or E. What tier is the RB10? That's in A. There it is, yeah, the RB10 is in A. Yeah, I don't remember much. I mean, 2017 is a bit of a blur. I don't think I missed that many races, but I just don't remember much about it. It's weird. I can't really remember it. But yeah, really, really unreliable. Where are the others? So I put the 2015 one is in E, and then the other one is in C. Maybe I think D. Put it in the middle. They go in D. Then we have the Mercedes W08. So yep, okay. They hadn't been. Ferrari gave them a good run, but Mercedes had much better qualifying pace and also reliability. Hamilton finished every race. I think Bottas quite possibly finished every race as well. Supremely reliable. I think this one, even though Ferrari were close, I think this one can be an S. It's not quite as dominant as the others, but still just really, really well built car. I remember, so Monaco, Hamilton got knocked out in Q2. And he shouldn't have won in Singapore, but because of what happened on the first lap he did, they had no kind of pace there. Yeah, I don't remember. Bottas got his first win in Sochi. Otherwise, I don't remember a huge amount. Crashed in Brazil quali. Yeah, by then he'd already won the title, so it didn't matter. But yeah, very good. Another really good car. Didn't Hamilton? He still finished like 4th or something in Brazil, even though he crashed in Q1, something like that. Yeah. Then we got the Red Bull. That's the RB13. The 2017 Red Bull. So this car, the pace, it was only marginally slower than Mercedes and Ferrari, but reliability was appallingly bad. I think it is their worst car for reliability. So many breakdowns. I think Max alone had like 7 breakdowns in races. And they beat. He won in. Obviously, Ricciardo won in Baku. Max won in Sepang, and I think those are their 2 wins. But it was just so unreliable. That's the big problem. I've got the Ferrari in A. I think because of reliability, it might have to go down to B. So I think that will go in B. That is the right car. It doesn't. That's not the best picture. I can't really. Yeah, but I'm pretty certain that's the right car. 3 wins. It's an A. It can't put it. No, it's the reliability. That's the thing. That's what's stopping it. Mexico as well. He won 2017. Yeah. It's the reliability letting it down. I remember when I did the 2010 cars ranking, I ranked this one quite low because of reliability. I think I put it around 25th, when without that it probably would have been around like 12th or 13th or something. Yeah, that was just a disappointing year for Red Bull. Then the Renault RS17. So this was Nico Hülkenberg and Jolyon Palmer, and then it was Van Dorn took over from Japan Sainz took over from, I think, Japan onwards, from Palmer. Again, no podiums, standard midfielder, better than the previous car. Looking at the others, it's not a B. C. Yeah, I think C, is a fair enough one for that one. Good looking car as well. I like the black and yellow, the Bumblebee stuff. Yeah, I saw actually. I was thinking, speaking of bees, because obviously Vettel, his big surprise because he's in Suzuka, is he's built like a beehive or a bee farm or whatever you'd call it in the infield of the circuit. And I like that they've painted the rumble strips black and yellow. But I was thinking, okay, fair enough. I mean, I assumed he was going to be driving the RB7 around Suzuka or for Race Without Trace, or maybe trying, because he said he was nervous. I was thinking, is he going to be trying to do like a hot lap and see if he can beat his pole time, but on synthetic fuels or something? But obviously not. But yeah. When there were rumours that Stroll wasn't going to race, I was thinking, well, Vettel's around if you want to let him have a go, but whatever. Sainz was Toro Rosso in Japan. Yeah, he crashed I think, at the beginning of Japan, but it was after that he took over. Okay, then it's the Sauber C34. The first car on my fit but shit list on Twitter or thread. Supremely good looking car, but just not good on pace. Slowest car in 2017. Again, Wehrlein started accusing the team of sabotage because he started getting beaten by Ericsson. And yeah, Wehrlein, and then he was the only one that got. I don't think Ericsson got any points, but Wehrlein got a few. But yeah, looks good, but not really much better. Well, actually, it's a little bit better than the E. Looking at the others, because the McLaren in D, that was faster, but was just much worse for reliability. A lot of people are saying E, but I don't think it was quite as bad as the 2016 one. McLaren got 30 points. Goodness. Yeah, I don't remember 2017. I'll put it in E. So much of 2017 is a blur. Then we've got the Toro Rosso STR12. So this was Carlos Sainz and Kvyat. And then in the second half of the year, and then in the final few races, they brought in Brendan Hartley and Pierre Gasly. Again, this was, I think, better than 2016. It was some points. I mean, I think bringing Gasly and Hartley in early probably cost them a bit of performance. A lot of people are saying C. Again, very, very pretty car. Looks fantastic. Am I getting? I'm mostly getting a few D's, mostly getting C's. Yeah, I think I'll put it in C. I can't remember any standout moments off the top of my head, to be honest, with that car. But yeah. Then it's the Williams FW39. I'm pretty certain that's the 39 because there was never an FW40. They skipped that over. Unless that's the 41. Let me think. 36, 37, 38, 39. 39, yeah, that is the Williams FW39 from 2017, although that picture does not look like it. Well, whatever. No, that's not it. Oh, I've got the wrong picture. That is the wrong Williams. That's the 2016 car. Okay, doesn't matter. Pretend that's the 2017 car. So that was Felipe Massa and Lance Stroll. Lance got third in Baku. And it's so... Yeah, good. A definite drop-off from 2016, but not a colossal one. So I think, so I think for that, on that basis, that C is it can go in C. But yeah, just pretend it's the 2017 car. It's obviously the wrong picture. Am I using the same picture twice for the others? Yeah, no, okay, but yeah. Whatever. Okay, that's all of 2017 done. So there's only two seasons of cars left. Stroll qualified P2. Yeah, Monza. I don't know if he qualified P2 on pace or because that was a race where there were just an insane number of grid penalties, or something. But yeah. So yeah, 2018 Ferrari. I've forgotten the name. But this one. But yeah, that Ferrari was an S. I think this one I think this one could be an S. Race pace. Hardly different from Mercedes. In the second half, it was behind a bit because they brought upgrades in that basically didn't work, and then they took them off way too late. Reliability was not an issue. The issue was Vettel's mistakes and Ferrari's pit strategies. That was the thing that was holding them back that year. So the car itself was very, very good. Again, really good in qualifying too. I think it's an S. That's the first... Yeah, that's the first non-title winning S car. It could have they could have been champions, maybe not constructors, but drivers they could have if they just kind of got their wits together a bit. Then it's the Force India. So this is the the VJM were they still calling? I don't know. This one it started out as a Force India and then it got renamed as a Racing Point. So this one they were top end in the midfield, fighting a little bit with Haas, but mostly with Renault. I don't remember any podiums, but I remember Ocon crashing, getting pushed into the wall by Raikkonen at Baku. B, C, C, B, the VJM 11, yeah. It was still Force India. It became, after the summer break when they were bought out, it became Racing Point Force India was the team, and the constructor had to change as well. So that was what cost them fourth in the constructors, was the name change. But the previous car's in B, because that one was supremely consistent. This one, I don't remember if it was bad on reliability wise. Can't really compare it to many other cars very well. In C, we've got the 2017. It's better than the Haas in 2017. I'll put it in B, I think. Third in Baku. Again, 2018. Baku 2018. What happened in that race? It will come to me. Ocon got taken out at the start. Vettel locked up at the end, and then Bottas got the puncher and Hamilton won. Yes, I remember that now. Yeah. Oh, my brain is frazzled. It's too much F1. Okay, now the Haas VF18. So this one, again, I studied quite a lot because I did the Haas video. The brakes and the tyres were not such an issue, but again, it was the brakes overheating. When the car was good, it was really good because they finished 4th and 5th in Austria. A couple of, obviously, they threw away a double points finish in Australia. And Alonso double punctured a 7th. Yeah, that was his good. That was, yeah, McLaren were really good in the first half of 2018. Yeah, the drivers were a bit of a hindrance for them. It was definitely slower than the Force India, but not by much. It just wasn't as consistent. They had some races. I mean, Mexico was a really bad race. They were not out in Q1. I mean, that was a. They seem to. They don't enjoy like high altitude races and long straights because it meant the tires didn't get up to temperature and the engines would overheat. Where's the other one? The other one is in C. It was better than that one, so maybe we'll put it in C. Although. What's everyone saying? B, a lot of Bs. Yeah. Grosjean crashed a lot. Yeah, Grosjean alone cost them a lot of points. Yeah, let's go B. Next is the McLaren. Another papaya with the Shandon. So Alonso and Van Dorn again. At the start of the year, it was quite good. There was a run of 6 or 7 races in a row that they were both getting points. And then the pace just went downhill as it went on. But everyone is saying C, and I think I agree with them. It's getting easier to rank these as it goes on because you've got stuff to compare them to. Yeah, reliability was a big improvement from 2017, certainly, but just the car just wasn't as good as it could have been. So yeah, I think a C. It just kept going backwards. Sorry, what we're doing. And then we get the Mercedes. Okay, so it's another S. The 2018 Mercedes. So almost no weaknesses. Double retirement in Austria. And obviously some races where the Ferrari was faster. Not many, but towards second half, Hamilton was just on fire. Yeah, another really good car that didn't have many circuits where it wasn't strong. Even Singapore, where it was meant to be weak, Hamilton set like the lap of the century. Yeah, another good one from Mercedes. Then it's the Red Bull. So this one is the Red Bull RB14? RB14, yeah. So again, a couple of wins. The second half, it was interesting because there was this switch that Verstappen was quite weak at the beginning, and then he suddenly kind of clicked and was really strong in the second half, whereas Ricciardo was really strong at the start, but then reliability just killed him. It killed his races, and he got several runs of reliability. So everyone's saying A, B. So I put the other one in B. I think this one will go in A because the race pace was better and it was not quite so bad on reliability. So I think that can go in B because on the race pace only very slightly behind Red Bull and Mercedes, but just reliability was letting it down, but not quite so severely as in 2017. Yeah. Then it's the Red Bull RS18. So this was Carlos Sainz and Nico Hülkenberg. Again, they were caught, a very, very good looking car. They were caught in a close fight with Force India / Racing Point and Haas to battle to win the midfield, and they eventually did get, because they finished 4th in the end. So I think they did win Formula 1.5. So yeah, better, yeah. So yes, very similar to the Force India and the Haas. So yeah, that can go in B. Right. Then it's the Sauber C17. So this was the one that was sort of an Alfa Romeo, but not really, because they became the title sponsor before it became Alfa Romeo the year after. Charles Leclerc, Marcus Ericsson. Ericsson, I think he was better than he looked. It's just that he was against Leclerc and Leclerc was supreme. For them, it was good. It was a bit of a resurgence. An obvious improvement over the 2017 car. Yeah, everyone is saying C. I think Leclerc basically got the maximum potential out of it. And I think it's a C is a fair enough position for that one. Then we have the Toro Rosso. I'm getting the numbers mixed up again. The STR13. So this was Brendan Hartley and Pierre Gasly. Obviously, their big standout moment was Gasly getting P4 in Bahrain. Hartley had a very difficult year. He didn't really have a chance to get going. He got a couple of points, but there were so many. Almost every weekend, he had some kind of breakdown or a penalty, or someone crashed into him, or something. Sixth in Hungary as well. So I'm mostly seeing D's, a B. I don't think it's a B. It's not a B. I don't think. It was lower midfield, but looking at the other D's, so many grid penalties. Wet tyres in Germany. Yeah, that wasn't good. This is the thing. I think that P4 in Bahrain was a bit of an exception. Otherwise, it was at the back basically. It was with like. Well, there was them and Sauber were basically the slowest cars. Oh, Williams were the slowest. They were faster than Williams, at least. Close to C if Sauber was in C. Maybe a high D. I think, yeah. It's hard. It's a difficult, yeah. I think a high D would be fair enough for that one. Then this is the Williams FW41. So Lance Stroll, Sergei Sorokin, objectively the slowest car in that season. Sorokin got 1 point, and that's only because Grosjean got disqualified in Monza. I mean, Monza was the only race where they were good, because again, Mercedes engines. But otherwise, yeah, slow car, not much, to be honest. It was a pretty miserable year. Literally everyone is saying E, so it's one person. It's not an F. I mean, one person said F, but yeah, I think an E. We can put that in there. It feels a bit odd putting it next to a couple of Marussias, but then it should have been better. That's everything in 2018. So now it's just the 2019 cars. So what did they do 2019? They had, I think the only rules in 2019, they simplified the front wing, so they reduced the number of front wing elements they were allowed to have, and that was the main change. I think new crash helmets too came up. So first up, the Alfa Romeo C19, I think was what they called this one, or C something. 2019 Alfa Romeo. Kimi Räikkönen and Antonio Giovinazzi. Räikkönen got a lot of... the rear wing was bigger. Oh, yeah, that was the other change. Räikkönen got a lot of points. I think he got about 50 or 60 points in this. Giovinazzi got some. I think, not many. A couple. But yeah, for Sauber, not... for Alfa Romeo even. Yeah, not a bad shout. Very dependable. They tried to make the car slower, that they ended up faster. Yeah, that's the thing. The whole history of Formula 1 is the FIA trying to slow the cars down, and they just get faster. Like, yeah. P4 Brazil, yeah. P4, P5 Brazil, that was it, yeah. But yeah, it was a good year for Kimi. So yeah, I think a C for that one. Oh boy, the 2019 Ferrari. This was the SF70, I believe, because that for them was their 70th year. They've been on a habit recently of giving every car some anniversary name. So this isn't it. Yeah, the 2019 Ferrari. Beginning of the year, not sort of there, but not really, because there was the pole position for Charles, and he should have won in Bahrain, but didn't. Again, Vettel should have won in Canada, but didn't. And then the car, most other places the car is kind of useless. And then suddenly they put that illegal engine in it. And then they go on that run of 6 consecutive pole positions and 3 wins, and then they get rid of the illegal engine and the car goes back to normal. SF90, yeah, that's the one. Yeah, sorry, yeah, SF90, yeah, 90 years of Ferrari. A lot, yeah, most of the time second best. Yeah, it's obviously not an S. The thing is, at its best, you could put it in A, but it was illegal. That's the thing. Yeah, I think an A. Even so, looking at the Bs, it's obviously better than some of the Bs. Yeah, just it's a bit of a curiosity as Formula One cars go. I think the 2019 Ferrari. Then it's the Haas VF19, the infamous rich energy Haas. So obviously I did my 2019 video on this very recently. They didn't change much from 2018, but this one, like the tyres were just so appallingly bad. It's hilarious. I was watching all the onboards of Magnussen and Grosjean in the first 5 laps. Like, they're just going backwards and they're getting passed at every corner. And both of them on the radio are like, do something. How do we fix this? And you had some really bad races, like getting into Q3 in Austria and then finishing like 19th. And a couple of races where they got points, but just only ones with like like medium to high speed corners and not lots of long straights. And then, Silverstone was a laugh the whole weekend. Most people are saying D. Yeah, a good quality car, and that was about it. I think D because it wasn't. Yeah, it's not quite bad enough to be in E or F. Yeah, it was just an interesting year for them. Haas, I find now, like, does anyone else think the Haas are just kind of boring now? Because they're not crashing anymore. They're not having any controversies with sponsors. Gunter, like, I haven't seen him get an interview in forever. Like, we don't have any like joke teams at the moment, and we need them to start being shit again, or shit. Well, I mean, they're shit now, but shit in a really uninteresting way. We need them to start crashing more, and rather than just driving indifferently to P13. Yeah. Super boring lineup as well. Yeah, I know. Why are they keeping both of them again? Like it's like Alfa Romeo. They're just a team. No, there's no ambition to keep Bottas and Joe. Like, Joe, he's a lovely guy. His driving is average. I mean, he's there. He brings a lot of money. Bottas is just sinfully boring, and just such a dull driver to watch. And he's just invisible in every race. They could have taken Porter and brought a bit of pizzazz into the team like they did with Leclerc in 2018. But yeah. Okay, 2019 McLaren. So Sainz and Norris. Quite good car. I don't recall any podiums, but upper midfield, they got I mean, didn't Norris? I think he may have outscored Sainz. Yeah, upper midfield car. Good effort from them. So B. Brazil, yeah, Sainz in Brazil. That was the podium in Brazil. Yeah, in Brazil, but never showed on TV. Yeah, it was invisible. I wish I hadn't misunderstood that when I did the first iceberg. Sainz doesn't exist and everything. I didn't realise what that meant when I skipped that one. I finished my drink. Okay, 2019 Mercedes. Yep. What was it? How many? 5 or 6 1-2s in a row at the start. Even with the illegal engine, it was still basically as fast as the Ferrari. Yeah. It just this was even more dominant than the 2017-18. They were back to kind of 2016 levels of dominance. So yeah, there it goes in S. Okay, Racing Point RB19. So this was Perez and Stroll. Not a good car. This was lower midfield. I remember this being quite a significant slump for them compared to where they had been before. Maybe some of that was by having Stroll. I don't know. Maybe dropping Ocon wasn't such a good idea. Compared to the other two, because the previous two were in B. C, yeah, maybe C. Most people say I'm seeing a mixture of C's and D's. The Tracing Point was 2020. Yeah, this car. I don't remember this car being that good. I think Stroll only got hardly any points in it. I think it was kind of on par with like Alfa Romeo and stuff. Spain Stroll Norris collision, yeah. So yeah, C. We'll go for there. Right, final four. The Red Bull, the 2019 Red Bull. So at the beginning, not really second, well, sort of straddling second fastest with Ferrari. Then mid-season, Max wins in Germany. He's a contender for the win in Hungary, and then we're thinking maybe he's going to be the second half. Maybe he's going to give Hamilton a run for the title, and then he crashes on the first lap in Belgium. But otherwise, yeah, an A. Similar in pace. Obviously, Gasly possibly cost them second in the constructors. Albon was better, but still not where he should have been, or where their second driver should have been. A C. No, it's not a C. The Red Bull had the best downshifts. Could have been S with a better number 2. Yeah. Yeah, let's go. Where did I? Oh no, what have I done? Oh, I dropped it in D. It's going in not B. A. Yeah, that's an A. Okay, then the 2019 Renault. Who drove for Renault in 2019? Hulkenberg and Ricciardo. Yeah, okay. So Hulkenberg was on course for a podium in Germany, and then he slid off on that like ice skating rink they had at the final corner. Ricciardo had his wing taken off at the start in Australia, I think by him. It was a bit of a drop from 2018, but not much. I'm seeing a mixture of C's and B's. Mostly C's. 4th and 5th in Monza was their best result. Monza 2019. That was Leclerc winning. Yeah, no, I remember that now, because then it was the Mercedes. Yeah, because then it was Mercedes second and third. I know it's a drag track. It's just because it was so slippy in the rain. Like, it was insane the way the cars were sliding off there. Yeah, only marginally. A lot of people are saying C. I mean, if I compare the 2017 one is C. The B. I need to think what the order in the constructors was that year, because Racing Point and Haas got a lot worse. Sauber were in the same. Did they still finish? They must have still finished 4th. Toro Rosso 29. I can't think anymore. My brain is going to mush. 5th. Was it McLaren was 4th. Yes. Yeah, McLaren was 4th. Okay, well, that gives us a comparison. If McLaren's in B, I'll put it in C, because I think it was a bit of a letdown. It's a high C. 7th Racing Point. Right, yeah. Renault 5th. Tag Heuer engine supplier. Yeah. Yeah, they would have been the same as Red Bull. Just 2 cars left. The 2019 Toro Rosso. So, who drove that? Kvyat and Albon, and then Kvyat and Gasly. Okay, so it was okay. It was actually okay at first. When it was Kvyat and Albon, it was not bad. Reasonable results. And then Kvyat got podium in Germany, and then Gasly was very good when he came back to them, and obviously got second place in Brazil. Definitely better than 2018. So it's not going in D. But it's not better than the Renault or the Alpha. Yeah, McLaren were they were like comfortably 4th in 2019. C, maybe B. I mean, okay, it did get 2 podiums, but those podiums were very lucky. Like, it took a lot of things to happen to put that in place. If we compare that to Renault, because the Renault is in C, yeah, a high-performing C, I think, for them. Okay, the very last car. It's the Williams. I don't know what went wrong here, to be honest. They switched from Martini sponsorship to Rocket. Kubica, George, new lineup. George is a rookie, supremely talented rookie. Kubica was well past his best. And obviously still had his injury, which clearly affected his driving. They had to modify the steering wheel for him. So slow, not competitive in the slightest. Like with the Marussia in 2015, there was nobody to compete with. They brought the car to testing and turned out that was illegal, so they had to get rid of all the illegal parts, and then it was just even slower. It was just depressing. The FFF E because of reliability. That's the thing. The only saving grace is reliability. I don't think it broke down once, or maybe there was only one. Like Russell got so close to most consecutive finishes until he got taken out by Grosjean in Singapore. Lucky point for Kubica. That was it. Yeah, I think F because the 2018 one is an E, and then the other one's in F. Yeah, so that can go in F. Oh well, we've done it. I'm not going to read out every car because that will be here all day and I don't remember half the names, but you can get an idea that in S tier we've got a wad of Mercs and Red Bulls and one Ferrari. A is a sea of Red Bull and Ferrari, one Mercedes. B, we've got quite a mixture actually. Some of the worst McLarens and Ferraris, some of the good midfielders. Maybe, yeah, now we look at it, I wonder if any I could spend. I've got a bit of time. Maybe I should reassess a couple of them or not. Some of the earlier ones. Will you do the 2000s when you hit 3? I'm assuming that says 30,000. I mean, I can. I mean, I'll do the 2000s one at some point in the future, certainly. Maybe that as a 3000. That'll only take a few months, so I could do that as a special. That'll be a fun one. DT should be, yeah, Toro Rosso. Maybe just call it STR for that tier. Yeah, how many in D? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We've got 10 cars, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 of them are Toro Rossos in D. Yeah, there are some interesting ones in the bottom 2. I think that I feel like the 2018 Williams maybe go up a bit. I don't know. It feels having the 2019 Williams down there feels bad. You have to remember how uncompetitive it was, even though it was probably about 4 to 5 seconds a lap faster than every other car in that list in terms of actual pace. Toro Rosso 2011 Toro Rosso in D is harsh. It was better, but it wasn't. I'm looking at the other ones in C. It wasn't on that level of like really midfielders, or really in the middle midfielders, I should say. Yeah. We'd go B for 2019 Toro Rosso. Yeah, no, that's way too generous for that one. CT05 got robbed. No, it's an F car. It's an awful car. 26 and 15. Yeah, I know that's the thing. The points were good, but it's still I think they beat Williams, but not. I don't think they beat anyone else. I felt bad that they both got dropped. 2015 Sauber is in C. Yeah, that one. I think they got more points than the Toro Rosso did, but you have to look at it from the relative competitiveness compared to other things, because I think Toro Rosso, other than beating Williams, was still sort of at the back of the midfield. Whereas the Saubers were a bit more in the mix in 2015. 2015 Toro Rosso in B. I don't know. No. B, this is mostly like upper midfield ones, and that wasn't an upper midfield car. It was a kind of middle midfield. I think. So yeah. B is a stretch. It is, yeah. I mean, there are a few. I'm trying to look. I mean, most of these I think are broadly correct or suitable. I think. You could. I mean, maybe I needed more tiers. I don't know, but do you think seven's enough? I mean, although some of them are quite congested. Yeah. Marussia 2013, Williams 2019 should be on par if you're factoring how reliable. Yes. Okay, so both really reliable. The difference was that the gap that Williams had in 2019 to everyone else was bigger than what Marussia did, and Marussia were faster than Caterham. That's kind of the main difference. It was the gap. It was a smaller field spread in 2013. 2018 Haas, 2019 Toro Rosso could be. Everyone wants to put this Toro Rosso up. It's not going up to B. The Haas, though. Well, it's already there. 2018 Haas. Yeah, I mean, I think most of them are. With most of these, it's just race pace because they're broadly speaking, cars in the 2010s. Most of them were quite good for reliability because this was an era when reliability was so much better. But so that there aren't many cars on this list where you have to factor in reliability. It's mostly the 2017, 2018 Red Bulls being especially bad. And like maybe the 2010 Red Bull again, or the 2017 Ferrari. Most other cars, reliability wise, other than the back markers, were fairly equal. Are people misremembering that Toro Rosso? It should not be B unless they just like the look. It was best car since 08. Yeah, it was their best car since 08. It doesn't mean it was as good as the one in 08. Like, Vettel's win was not a fluke in 2008, but the two podiums came about... Well, the 2019 race was chaos, and everyone was spinning, and like Leclerc spun off, and Mercedes imploded on themselves. And then 2019, there was a double retirement from Ferrari, and there was that safety car right at the end because of that, and all of that stuff just throwing things around. If those were like normal races, they wouldn't have got anywhere near the podiums, probably. Yeah. Well, it should be interesting when I do get around to doing the 2000s cars. There's some very good ones. Very, very nice cars in there. And a lot of really bad ones, but some very pretty ones. Yeah, the Hamilton Albon collision 2019. Of course. So he was... Yeah, that gave them another place, because without that... Because I think Gasly was behind both of them at that point. And then he got passed because of that, yeah. 50s cars... Oh... I haven't even done the 90s ones yet. I've been holding off on making my 90s ranking video for weeks now. I keep starting it, and then I think of something else that can be made in like 3 days and just doing that instead. I have a preliminary ranking for the 90s cars. I just haven't done any script writing yet. The thing is, there are over 150 cars from the 90s, and a lot of them are really, really bad as well. It'll be an interesting list. It's going to be a long video, though. You can probably guess what the top 10 is, but for the moment, and probably what's at the very bottom. Yeah, I'll get that done. I'll get it done before Christmas at least. I would hope. I've got that one out. I've been holding it off for absolutely ages. Life gets its own tier. Yeah, that's that thing barely qualifies as a Formula One car. Like, it doesn't even look like one. 90s MasterCard Lola. The thing is, the MasterCard Lola, I think it is in my bottom 10, but you have to remember there is also the Life, and there are the Colonies, and not ATS. There's another one. from around that time, early 90s, a couple of really shockingly bad cars, as well as the MasterCard Lola. And then you have to factor in things like Pacific and 40 and Simtech and all of that, yeah. AGS, yeah, they were the other awful one. And then it was either Venturi or the other one where they got sold to a serial killer. And that wasn't a good car either. Onyx had a couple of podiums in '89, I think, didn't they get one? Yeah, they were kind of more. I don't know if they still had any cars in the '90s, but in the '80s they were kind of moving around a lot. Yeah, I tried a video idea earlier in the week. I thought about running one of my old scripts through like Google Translate 50 times. And I took my old script for my video on Andrea Moda to see what it came up with. It didn't really work because it didn't just kind of deliberately made it comical in a way that made it not even make the slightest bit of sense. And I was like, I don't think I can work with this. I might, but if I can find a different software that can translate it a bit better and see if it comes out funny or something. Because one of the lines, it said something like, they did not accept the Jews, but they won in Canada, or something like that. Yeah, it's a video idea just for some comedy. Maybe I'll try it. Google translating old scripts or something. Short ones, because it's going to struggle with something that's like 30,000 words. Onyx had a Subaru, Aaron. Can you rank the S-tier cars in order? Can you rank every driver of the 2020s? Okay, I'll do the S-tier cars in a second. Rank every driver of the 2020s. I will be doing that. Okay, well, the full video, assuming I'm still making YouTube, will come out at that time. Will come out in 2029. At the end of 2024, I will rank every 2020s driver so far, because then we'll be halfway through the decade, and I'll do the same for cars. But obviously, we've still got a year to go before that. Yeah. Whether or not I'm still making videos in 6 years' time, who knows? I mean, I'd like to think I would have advanced onto something or expanded out to something else, but who knows? Okay, yeah, let's try and rank. I'll rank all the S-tier cars and then probably call it a day. So, yeah, okay. So start with 2010. The 2011 Red Bull is definitely better than the 2010 one. It had better reliability, better quality, better race pace, better aero, even though the tyres were Pirelli, so they were fucking awful. The 2012 one, I think that was worse. I think reliability was marginally better than 2010, but race pace was not anywhere near as good, or quali. So that one is below those. 2014 Mercedes, supreme aero, really good engine power. Again, reliability a couple of times was off, but broadly speaking, it was fine. Oh, that's 2013. Sorry. Yes, it is. It's 2013. Okay, back to that. 2013 Red Bull. Okay, reliability only one. There was a couple of breakdowns, only 1 or 2, but again, supremely good. Once they could put the 2012, tires on it. 9 wins in a row. I think it's better than. Yeah, no, it is. It's better than the 2011 car. 2014 Merc. Okay, yeah, as I said, great aero, great power. Reliability was a little bit wanting, not by much, but the pace difference was so huge across the whole season. 2012 should be S. Yeah, it's not, because it was because the Mercedes was because McLaren was faster, and it was just letting the car just was a couple of reliability. It just wasn't quite in S. The 2012 one. 2015 Merc was, results-wise, not really that different, aside from not having any reliability issues. Probably better than the 2014 one. The gap was maybe a little bit smaller to Ferrari. 2016, that's better. It just didn't broke down once. No one else came anywhere near. Could you rank privateer teams? I mean, there are tons of them. When I did my points ranking of every constructor, I did constructors instead of teams, because when you remember that when you get to teams, when you go out to the 1970s, we're talking about like one guy who just bought a car and ran it himself, rather than an actual like team. So I thought, okay, constructor is better because then you can factor in all the marches that were sold off to other teams and Coopers and everything else in the 60s and 70s. 2016 but legitimately could have done a clean sweep. 2016 couldn't come better at it. Okay, so the 2017 Merc, good quality car. Just it was so close on pace. If we compare this to the Red Bulls, because it's not in the same league as the other Mercs at the moment. 2010 Red Bull, it wasn't so far ahead on pace, but it had supremely good reliability. The 2013 Red Bull is clear, I think. I think not quite on the level. Yeah, I think because of how far I was, so I put it above 2010, but not the 2011 one. 2018 Ferrari. So, good reliability, lots of power, really good. Just really, there's very little in it in terms of its pace compared to Mercedes. I could put it maybe above the 2017 Merc. I think that would be fair enough. The 2011, the RB7, it's not as good as that one. Yeah, I think something like that. And then the 2018 Mercedes, it is better than the Ferrari, but marginally. But not as good as the 2011 Red Bull. And then the 2019 Mercedes. So that one started so strongly, and then it was just kind of caught out a bit towards the end. Let me think. It's. I don't think it's better than the 2013 Red Bull. The 2011 one. It wasn't. If you ignore the illegal Ferrari aspect, maybe. Both. Okay, because both drivers were consistently fast, but yeah. Whereas in 2011 it was just Vettel, so yeah, I'll put that there. I'll be honest, that's probably the same order that they are in the 2015 in the ranking video. I think I don't remember. I know number one is 20. I think it's 2015, 2016 Merc. I think actually the RB9 is third, but whatever. 11 Red Bull should go second or third. It's because it wasn't as dominant as the 2013 one, and I don't remember Webber being there much with it, to be honest. Yeah. Okay, yeah, I won't rank any other tiers because we'll be here all night. So I think I'll call it a day there. So how do I get this off screen? That should have switched back to full screen. Hopefully, I'll see in a second if it's changed on my phone. Yep. Okay, there we go. Right. Okay. So yeah. There's another video out. I mean, some of you will have seen the thumbnail or the provisional thumbnail. It's not a very good one, but it gives you an idea of what's going to be on that. And yeah, I can do another stream. Maybe when I hit 30,000, I'll do a 2000s cars one. But yeah, this is a good fun. I'll save this and publish it on Twitter, obviously, and everyone can see. It's quite good to get it all done in about 2.5 hours. But yeah. So yeah, thank you all for tuning in, and I'll see you all around.